What is up, Mentors Collective? This is your host, Jay Feldman, founder of Outer Public Relations. Now, if you're an entrepreneur listening to this, if you own a business, then chances are you do marketing. Chances are you've also experimented with paid advertising, advertising on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on Google. And a funny thing to know is that most people who experiment with paid advertising give up shortly after. They are not successful. And in this episode, if you've experimented and you failed, or even if you've experimented and you've had some level of success, you need to be paying attention to this because myself and an expert that that I admire very much in the paid ad space are going to be diving into why your ads are not working. This is going to be very high yield. So to take your notebooks out. And without further ado, I want to welcome my guest. I've been doing business with Drew Blumenthal for a while now. He's someone who's been a mentor for me and an expert when it comes to social media advertising, search engine advertising. He's a true expert. So welcome, Drew. Thank you for coming and sharing your expertise with me and with my audience today.
Of course. Thank you for having me, Jay. I'm excited to be here.
And Drew, I know you've worked with large ad agencies. You've worked with companies like Samsung, J&J, and now you're off kind of doing your own thing, trying to corner every side of making paid ads successful. Because a lot of people think it's just like one thing that you need to get right for an ad to work, for an offer to work. And that's not true. And that's why a lot of, I think, ad agencies fail, is because there's so many things out of their control. So talk to me, Drew. Give me the kind of 101. What does it take to make an ad successful?
Number one is a good website, meaning that the website has good information on it. It has credible images. It has strong call to actions on it. So if any of these things are missing, if people can't trust the website, if they don't know what you're offering, then the ads will fail. The other thing, especially if you're running social media ads, is you need to have really good creative. So if you don't have good creative, like images that are in stock images, if you don't have short videos, if the ads don't get somebody excited to click on it and they know what they're clicking on, you're going to fail as well. So there's so many elements, even besides just bidding on the keywords or targeting the right audience. The other thing is analytics. So making sure that you set up the data tracking properly and making sure you know exactly what conversions you want to track and having the machine learning track those actions and then learning over time. Like, for example, I was on a call with a client earlier today and we were tracking for calls and form completions. And his feedback was that the calls weren't converting and the forms were. So we made a decision to stop optimizing for calls and only focusing on form completions. So then the algorithm, even though it's bidding on the same keywords, is going to target differently and therefore get more of the results that are going to lead to new business.
I love that. And when I teach ads and talk about ads, I usually break it down into three things that need to be aligned in order for the ads to work as well. You mentioned a couple of, or most of them, right? There's the ad itself. So not only the creative, but who you're targeting with that creative, that needs to be on point. Two, where you're sending them. So if you're like your landing page or your website is sloppy, unconvincing, doesn't have the elements that are needed to convert on a landing page, the whole thing's going to break down. And three, the offer. If your offer sucks or it doesn't stand out, it doesn't entice, there's nothing that you're going to do to be able to convert. If all three of those things don't work, your whole system breaks down, your whole thing fails. And a lot of people don't know why, and they can't pinpoint it. They think it's the creative. They think it's one thing or the other. And that's why, as you mentioned kind of in our pre-interview, that you did what you did, which is step out and take over control over all sides of the system to create a successful ad. Because as an ad agency, like, you can control spend, you can make the audience, you can run the ads, but if you don't have control over the whole thing, then there's nothing you can do to make your client successful. So walk me through kind of the traditional model of ad agencies and why it might not work.
Right. A lot of agencies, they specialize in one thing. So, for example, if an agency specializes in Google ads, they might be able to build the best keywords. They might have access to tools like SEMrush. They might know how to write responsive ad copy. But then if they don't know how to build websites or they don't know how to set up conversion tracking, then it doesn't matter if they're bidding on the right terms or writing good ad copy. If you have a 15% CTR, but nobody converts, at the end of the day, the agency is not going to be successful, because the point of marketing and advertising is to make more money than you're spending. So if an agency is charging X fee, the ad spend is X fee, the client, to be sustainable and to build a long-term relationship to keep running ads, at a certain point, they have to be profitable or they're going to stop running the ads. And then the agency is going to keep cycling for clients, and they're not going to be able to grow their revenue, because a client could be pretty patient and say, I'll give this 2 months, I'll give this 3 months. But at the end of the day, if they can't produce revenue and they can't see the LTV, they're going to stop. Like, there's a client also this morning that I can think of that they went through 3 other agencies before working with me. And I've been working with them this year. And basically, we have a bi-weekly call every 2 weeks. And now together, we've built together a Salesforce report that actually tracks all the different leads that come in and the direct revenue. So we were able to sit today and show, since the beginning of the year, we spent $45,000 to make a total of $128,000 directly from the leads that came from Google Ads down to the keyword level. So they know hands down that they want to keep spending. They know that this is working. And that's a client that I know is going to continue to spend and continue to grow, because they built everything properly, and I've set up the tracking for them. I worked with them on the website. So when we first started working together, they had all stock photos across the website. And I said, look, just because every other website has these stock photos, people aren't going to think of you as credible. And then throughout the year, they've been able to update the photos and get live photos, and it's helped their conversion rate. It's helped their closing rate. So all of these additional things that I bring to the table, or what I would consider a good agency would bring to the table, is it's not something that I can't do. It's something that I can help you full circle and full cycle to get to that end goal, which truly is the revenue.
Right. And so many things have to be right. And it sounds like you're able to kind of look at a client from a fisheye lens, taking a step back, look at the broader picture, and help them identify kind of where the problems might be, and then fix each one, which not a lot of ad agencies do. I do want to kind of talk about one other thing that you just mentioned, which is clients need to know that their ads are profitable, or they're going to stop running them. And this is something that I've run into several times as a marketer, especially as a rookie marketer, which is I'd set something up, I'd run it for 2 weeks. I'd be like, oh, I'm just spending money. I don't know if this thing's making money, or I know it's not making money. And then I'd turn it off because I didn't know what to do at that point. People get so stuck. And I think there's a couple things you can do to empower yourself with your ads. And one of those things, like you mentioned, is proper tracking and analytics. So you need to know what your goals are, and you need to know kind of how much money you can spend to achieve that goal. So where do you start if you're a marketer and you're setting up an ad campaign? What do you think about when it comes to tracking?
Yes. So always setting up Google Analytics. So having Google Analytics on the site so you can look at metrics like bounce rate, time on site, and pages per session. But having a CRM can be your best friend if you're in the lead generation space. So having a CRM like HubSpot or Salesforce or Zoho, and really having an expert set it up for you, really can make a difference. And like, these platforms are not cheap, but they're worth the investment if you're trying to scale. And they've built their platforms around marketing and advertising, so that way you could qualify your leads, you could see the revenue coming in, you could even have the algorithm optimized for qualified leads, or whatever you consider a qualified lead, if you set up the CRM properly. So there are people that are HubSpot experts, there are people that are Salesforce experts, and having people on your team that can help you with the CRM, or even if you don't have a CRM, you could even build a Google sheet and then link it with a software called Zapier, and Zapier can create zaps to link. You could build your own CRM and link it to your ads, and then be able to track it that way. But again, if you're an e-commerce client too, it's a little bit easier because you could see your revenue that's coming in and you could see the conversion value. But again, either way, there shouldn't be an excuse to not know your numbers, and there shouldn't be a way where you're just shooting blind or shooting in the dark, because you might even be making money on the ads, but if you can't prove it, you might stop something that actually is working really well.
Right. And just to kind of piggyback off of that, like you said, if you're in e-commerce and you're selling an item, the tracking becomes very easy. You can see kind of right on the dashboard that if you spend 100 and you get 150 from sales, those are really easy numbers to crunch. Where it becomes complicated is when you're talking about like agency work or companies with really long sales cycles like ourselves, and your call to action, your goal with a lot of your advertising is either generate a lead or book a call. And a lot of times agencies won't know the value of their lead and of their calls. So it's really important to sit down and to try and calculate, come up with a rough estimate of what the value of those things are. We do that based on close rates, lifetime value of our customers. We have an equation to figure that out to know what we can afford to pay for a qualified call and a qualified lead. So that's you kind of have to know the number. Just like with e-commerce, you need to know what you can spend so that you're profitable selling an item. The cost of the item, the cost of advertising, the cost of shipping. You take that out and you have your profit margin. With agency work and booking calls, a little bit different. So definitely something to keep in mind. But before you start pouring money into your advertising, you have to figure out your numbers. But it is possible. I used to think it wasn't possible or feasible to know what we could afford to pay for a call. Is that a problem that you face with your clients ever, Drew, with your own company?
Yeah. So, I mean, I ask the questions, and some people don't know because they don't have a CRM. But again, I try and see what is the lifetime value. So, you calculate what the average AOV or the average order value is. You calculate how long the client is going to stay. So, is your retention rate usually 6 months? Is it a year? And then from there, you could essentially calculate what an estimate cost per result should be to be scalable, and knowing also that it's a rough estimate, because especially in lead gen, if you make one person happy, they might refer three people to you. And then those three people did come from the ads. So it's very complicated to always calculate what your true ROI is. But I think also with digital ads, it gets a bad rap because there's so many other channels like radio and TV and things where you can't calculate things. And it's like, well, if you're willing to spend $50,000 on a TV ad and you don't know how many customers you're getting, why would you give or hold paid ads to the same standard? But that being said, there's so much of it that you can't see, or so much of it that, as you said, if you have a 6 month sales cycle, it's hard to really calculate what the ROI is. But that being said, when the sales cycle is longer, it's good to look at the qualified lead and calculate it based on the number of qualified leads. And sometimes a lead might be super, super qualified, and then it doesn't close. And it's like, man, that would have been an additional $50,000 in revenue if I would have closed that I would have attributed to the ad. But you still need to consider those things as a win, because if you're bidding on the right keyword or targeting the right audience, if you keep running it, then your chance of getting that lead again is higher, and then that'll help you scale. So sometimes I think of it as a dartboard. So it's like you need to shoot a certain number of darts to hit a bullseye. So if you only throw 3 darts, you only have a 1 in 3 chance of getting a bullseye. So that's where you do need to stick with it. You do need to look at the ratio of qualified leads and know that you need to spend enough to be able to hit a bullseye and not give up too quickly.
I love that you said there's a lot of kind of hidden value to running ads that people don't really see or attribute to numbers, because it's so true, especially when we're talking about like retargeting ads, like the clients that we've already talked to and they're in our sales process, but now they're seeing testimonials every time they're scrolling through Facebook and through their websites, through our Google display ads. They're seeing our company doing fun things and all this stuff we're paying for, and we're not seeing any direct result, but it's keeping our company front and center of their mind. We'll never see the data behind that. That's just one example. So there are a lot of other hidden benefits to running ads, spending money, especially when it comes to retargeting. Drew, I'd love to spend a couple minutes on each of the three pillars that I mentioned earlier, picking your brain and
Mhm.
getting some really tactical advice on how to hone in on each one, ads, landing page, offer, to set themselves up for the best chance of having a successful ad campaign. So if that's okay, I'd love to start with where the customer really sees you first, which is the ad itself. Now, I'd love to talk about one, best practices for creative kind of heading, audience, and platform. So let's start with like platforms. Where should people be advertising? Is everything equal? Like which platforms are your favorite?
Yeah. So Google and Facebook are my two favorite. I mean, there are other ones like TikTok and Pinterest and things like that. Google is very powerful in terms of search because it's very active. So if you're doing Google search, the leads or the sales tend to be very, very qualified because the person is literally on their phone or on their desktop typing something in. So it's like what I like to call it is the active ad. So the person is raising their hand and saying, I need this or I want this. So, like, for example, if you're a service based business, think of it as the yellow pages of today. I don't know how many people on here have ever seen a yellow page book, but those basically don't exist. So the big, thick stack of yellow pages no longer exists because Google has really taken that away. And therefore, if someone needs a contractor, if someone needs a marketer, if someone needs a service based business, they're not going to the yellow pages, taking out their phone and manually typing in a number. They're literally searching on Google, clicking on a website, clicking on a phone number, and calling and getting that lead. So it's very, very active. Social media is very different. I think of it as passive and more of like the TV or radio ad where you target somebody based on interest and behavior, and then you need to really wow them with the creative and wow them to be, this is the exact item that I needed in my life that I didn't even know that I needed. So that's kind of how I frame the social media ad is, again, there's retargeting, but regardless, they're scrolling through stories, they're scrolling through their feed, like they're looking for nothing. They're just might be entertaining themselves, they're looking at friends and family, and boom, you're there. And it's you really need to capture somebody and wow them and really show that this is something that they need. So a good example of this is a lipstick brand that I've been working with, I would say now about 2 to 3 years. And again, same story as they've worked with several marketers in the past and they just struggled and struggled and struggled. And then all of a sudden, I believe it was 7 or 8 months ago at this point, they did this new creative. It's so stupidly simple, but it gets thousands of orders a month, and it's literally just a 15-second clip of a woman zoomed in with the lipstick just applying it to her lips with just music in the background, and it just says featured in some magazine, and it's literally 15 seconds, and people just buy this lipstick over and over and over again on such a consistent basis. And it's just, if you can get the creative to pop, and again, you need a good website and you need a good experience post click, but it's that ad that's really going to hook somebody in. Think of it also like those toy ads that you used to see on Nickelodeon, that you were a kid and you were like, I need that toy now, and you bugged your parents until they finally get it. Like, those worked because they were very exciting ads. They were very simple. They demonstrated the product, but they literally knew exactly what they were doing because they made probably millions, if not billions of dollars, because they knew that a child wasn't directly sitting on TV looking for that toy, but they knew that the audience was there. They knew the creative that would entice the child until they got exactly what they wanted.
It's funny, and on the topic of conversation of creative, there's really no perfect science to it. And it's funny you mentioned the lipstick ad, because the one like piece of advice that I have to marketers who are looking for a creative solution that's going to work is that you need to just test your creative. A lot of times, the highest production stuff, the stuff that you pay $10,000 for a video, doesn't convert. And the selfie video with you talking and no microphone is what ends up converting. So always be testing creative, and eventually you'll find something that resonates. But it's just, creative's an interesting thing, and it's humbled me a lot when I'm like, oh, this piece of creative is awesome. We've spent so much money and time creating this piece of content, and doesn't work at all. And then the 15-second selfie videos and what ends up converting. So really interesting stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and I've definitely seen some interesting things. Like, I've seen people love unboxing videos so much. Like, just the sound of people unboxing it and looking in the box. Like, you
It's
could spend
suspense,
$10,000 on creative.
right?
Exactly.
But you,
Or the ASMR. Like, people love to hear the sound of the product. Like, people want, and even if it's a service too, they want to feel the connection. So the ads, again, I don't think that there's a formula either, but the ads that people spend 10, 15, $20,000 to produce, if it doesn't make the person feel something, or it doesn't make the person feel connected because it's too overly polished, a
Mhm.
lot of the times that's what doesn't work. Like, people want to feel connected to a brand, people want to feel the realness and the authenticity of it. And if it's too polished and it's too fake looking, like, there's so many influencers that I've run ads and I'm like, this influencer knows what they're talking about. They put on so much makeup, like, they're so professional, and it doesn't end up producing because it just turns everyone away. And it's like, that I can't see myself with that person.
Right. So in general, capture attention, test, and try and elicit some emotion in some way. And suspense is a great kind of form of emotion. All right, let's move on from ads, and talk a little bit about the website landing page conversion optimization, things that people can do wrong that will cause kind of immediate bounces off the website, some best practices. And I've seen some really bad landing pages. I've learned a lot about conversion optimization over the years. So, what are some simple tricks people can implement, just to have a really clean, simple landing page that works?
Yep. Number one, make sure your website is mobile responsive. I can't tell you how many times somebody has given me their website, and before I book a meeting with anyone, I ask them specifically, what is your website, so I could review it before, so that way I could be prepared. And I see websites that look like they were built in 2015, and I don't feel comfortable taking someone's money. And I'm brutally honest and say, look, this website isn't mobile responsive. I People aren't going to be able to scroll through it. They're not going to be able to read it. And sometimes people are like, Drew, build me a landing page. And other times they're like, no, I just want the ads. And then they end up walking away. So making sure that the website is mobile responsive. The other thing I would say is check your site speed. Google has a free site speed test that you could run your URLs through. Because if your website takes so long to load, even if you have the best images, the best videos, the best everything, if people can't load it in a few seconds, they're going to bounce. And I see this all the time where someone's so proud of their website, and I try and load it and I see the images like 30 seconds later, and I'm like, the images didn't load. So you need to adjust the resolution of the images, you need to adjust the resolution of the videos. Like, all of those things make a difference because people are very impatient, and that's an easy fix. Number three is not having strong call to actions. So, for example, on your service pages or across the website, making sure that you have a form at the top of the page, at the bottom of the page, making sure the call to actions are very clear of what you want the person to do, because that's going to affect your conversion rate. So if you're putting all this great content, but nobody knows where to go to contact you, that's also going to hurt your results. So making sure that that's very clear. I think the last thing, honestly, is not providing enough information either. So don't assume that people know everything about you. Don't build your website or your landing page for the referral. Build it for the person who's never known you before and doesn't know anything about your value proposition. So explain what you do, show testimonials and social proof, and show visual examples. So those are things that people are looking for, and building it with that framework and that side of thinking is going to get you a lot more results than assuming that everybody knows everything about you already.
Drew, I agree with everything you said. I do want to add a couple things from my own experience if it lends some value to the audience. Definitely do all the stuff that Drew just said. Speed, hugely important. If you're on WordPress or something like that and you're suffering from slow site speed, very, very common. You can go on Fiverr, find ways to speed it up. There's some plugins that you can use to help. Sometimes it's faster and easier just to kind of sign up for a landing page tool like ClickFunnels. Honestly, we still use ClickFunnels when we're sending ad traffic there. It's just wicked fast, easy to set up, and designed for conversion. And just to piggyback on what Drew said about a single call to action, have it above the fold. Don't have multiple places where your prospect can click off. So if you have like a huge menu bar and lots of different buttons leading to different places, they will wander. People have ADD and will not typically do the thing that you sent them there to do. So I like to have either a single call to action to fill out a form or book a call. For some people that might be to purchase something, but very important, single call to action, single reason that you sent them there. What about some elements of that landing page, Drew? For example, a sales video, some testimonials, some authority. Is there any system that people can follow to include everything that you should have in order to get that conversion?
Yeah. So a great flow for a landing page is form on the top, then put some information about your service, then put the testimonials or social proof underneath the services, and then put your form at the bottom. So that's a simple flow, because if you put testimonials, that's kind of like the bragging piece. You
Right.
don't want that first, because you want people to learn about the services and be like, okay, this is what this person does, this is what they're offering. And then wanting to learn more and seeing like, okay, they offer X service. How do I know that they're any good? And then reading those testimonials or watching the videos and all of that. And then the person's excited. So having a form also at the bottom of the page, or having your call to action at the bottom of the page, because if somebody has to scroll all the way back to the top of the page, chances are they're not going to do it, because people are just lazy. Like, people just want everything right in front of them. People want everything spoon fed to them. So again, having this specific structure can really help to get the most conversions and be able to use your ad budget or marketing budget as efficiently as possible.
I love that. Awesome advice. I have nothing to add there. Let's move on. Talk about the offer. Say you've got the creative, the audience, totally down pat. You send them to a kick-ass landing page. It's perfect, and then they scroll down to the pricing section or the what you do section, and it fails. They bounce off the landing page because they're not interested. Even if they were interested, based up until now, they were interested in the ad, the headline, the description, but the offer isn't very good. Is there anything that people can do to entice the user to take action with the offer?
Yeah. So one is knowing what your audience is and knowing what they do. So like, for example, with me, my call to action is always book a call. I know that my clientele is extremely busy. They're business people, they're marketing directors, they don't have time to sit there and fill out a very long questionnaire or a form. Like, they want to book a call, they book the call, I send them a few reminders, and then they show up. So that for me works really well. Some people want calls. So if you're like a contractor or a roofer, a lot of people aren't going to want to sit there and book a call a week or two in advance. Like, they just want to click, they want to call, they want to say what their problem is and get it resolved as quickly as possible. So when you're coming up with your offer, really think about your past customers, really think about what their avatar or avatars look like and how they're going to best respond. And you could always do A/B tests as well. So you could always build multiple landing pages. You could test multiple call to actions and see what works. But knowing what your customer is going to do to react is the best way to see what is going to yield the best result.
I love that. And testing is really the solution for a lot of this stuff. I totally agree with you. Drew, would you be down to play a little game of kind of like rapid fire questions about different ad platforms? And if you don't know anything about like Snapchat ads, you can just say never used them before. But would love to spend like a minute on each of these different ad platforms, just giving your thoughts, not necessarily advice, because as marketers, If you've made it to this point in the episode, you're probably starry-eyed thinking, I need to do this and that. I need to be on Facebook ads and TikTok ads. I get like that myself. For example, today I set up a Twitter marketing campaign just to see what happens. There's a lot of craziness going on in the Twitter sphere. I'm wondering if I can generate some traffic from that. So us marketers get distracted. I'd love to hear your thoughts on some of these ad platforms, your experience with them. Let's keep it brief. Sound fair?
Sounds fair.
All right. Let's start with LinkedIn ads. What are your first thoughts and impressions on LinkedIn ads?
Great for brand awareness, great for retargeting, hard to convert cold people right off the bat.
I agree. Totally agree. What about YouTube ads? You ever run video ads?
Great for longer content. Set up your conversion tracking. Also run them in tandem with search or display or other ads as well on Google.
Cool. Longer content, like you run like 5 to 10 minute YouTube ads?
Yeah. I mean, there's videos that are short, but if you're giving a really good offer, a longer video actually does better because people could watch 3 to 4 minutes of the video and then they'll click to your website and convert if you convince them in the video.
Ooh, cool. Twitter ads. You ever played with those?
Yes, I've done Twitter ads before. I've done it for a large organization in the Middle East. It's great for politics. It's great for controversial businesses as well. It's great for brand awareness. It's great for engagement. The conversion's not so much, so I wouldn't use it as much as a closing platform as a conversational and brand awareness platform.
Cool. Like I said, I just set up my first Twitter campaign today. It was actually pretty straightforward, and their pixel helper was great. So maybe they're making some headway. I'm spending $50 a day. I'll let you know what happens
Uh,
in the coming weeks. How about Snapchat ads?
Only once. I don't feel comfortable talking about Snapchat.
I know nothing about Snapchat ads. That's one I've never played with before. How about TikTok ads?
TikTok is very creative focused. So having videos that are very people focused, that they can connect with it, and that's really the most important thing with it. Again, great for brand awareness. A lot of people click, a lot of people view. Conversions are getting better, but not as good as Facebook and Instagram still.
Yeah, we were actually pretty successful with TikTok ads at first. We had one piece of creative that really just hit, and we were running the lead form ads on TikTok, and they were converting like crazy, like $10 leads. And then all at once, kind of just slowed down, got really expensive, and we just kind of turned them off because Facebook was outperforming it by so much. What other ad platforms that we have not talked about that deserve a mention? Are there any?
Pinterest ads
Let's
actually
talk
is a good
Pinterest
one to
ads.
mention.
I've never used
So
those.
I've run them quite a few times, actually for e-commerce brands, but a lot of people go on Pinterest. I mean, women who are 25 to 45, if that's your market, is a great platform. They have the pixel as well. People buy on it like crazy. I had a client on Black Friday who was earning a 10x return on Pinterest ads. And again, people love to promote the pins. It's very social. Like, people use it to actually buy a lot of things or inspire themselves. So even if you're a service-based business, say you're an architecture firm or an interior designer, people like to go on there to envision what their life would be like. So it's a perfect platform for that. If you're, again, your audience is women who are in that 25 to 45 age range.
That makes a lot of sense, and probably why we've never experimented with Pinterest ads. Not e-commerce and probably not our target demographics. Very cool. Let's talk some final notes for marketers out there. Some tricks that have made you very successful with your clients that people might be able to implement quickly and affordably to automatically turn on their success or enhance their success. What do we got?
One, and we've talked about analytics, Google Tag Manager is your best friend. It is a container. So think of it like a drawer where you can install all of your pixels, especially with the fact that cookies are going away. People used to set up their conversion tracking through Google Analytics. And as Google Analytics and as the Facebook pixel directly is becoming less accurate. If you set up Google Tag Manager, the benefit is you can create your conversion actions without directly having to code on the website. So you get the best of both worlds of being able to track without having to know how to code, without having to go into the back end of the website, but having it still be accurate. So setting that up is like number one. Number two is, again, we talked about the website, we talked about the structure, what should be on the page. Hands down, if you are like, man, I hate my website, I hate my landing page, it's not converting, hire somebody on Upwork or Fiverr right away. Even little marginal differences, even if you can't do a full build or a full landing page, paying a little bit or only for a few hours of work to make those marginal changes will make a huge difference long term, where you'd be able to scale much faster.
Very cool. And Drew, I'd love to talk to you at some point about Google Tag Manager. This is something that I tried to set up myself a little over a year ago, and just for the life of me, couldn't figure it out. There's like so many elements with the tags and the containers. It got a little complicated. So I'd love to talk to you. And then if you're listening, I'll probably make a video about how to set it up for beginners. What do they call that book series? Google Tag Manager for Dummies. I'll make a video. Very cool. Drew, for marketers out there that are looking for a little bit of additional help, maybe are having trouble implementing this stuff, uh, what are some solutions that they can look into? Some done for you stuff.
Yeah. So YouTube is a great place to look. Like you could literally search for anything like how to set up Google Tag Manager, how to do X, how to do Y. Um, just Googling it too. Like there's so many free blog articles out there that people are writing on how to do anything. So again, the world is your oyster. Googling it, putting it into YouTube and searching for it is the easiest. It's the free way to do it. If the free way is like not your thing and you want somebody to help you now and you don't want to spend hours watching videos or searching for blogs, the next best way is to go to Upwork or Fiverr. And there's plenty of great remote people in India and Pakistan and Philippines and other countries that may be able to help you with some of these things for $5 to $10 to $15 an hour before you're ready to hire a full-time person or a full-time agency. And then the next step above that would be to hire somebody like myself or Jay, who really is the expert that, again, you pay a premium for, but you know that you'd have the relationship, you know you'd have somebody with the experience and the customer service to actually get it done properly. So again, there's different ways that you could get it done, but it's more of, obviously, if you're using someone like us, you get the white glove service, you get the hands-on approach, you get the best out there. But again, there's different spectrums for everyone.
Right. And just to set the record straight, if you're looking for full service digital marketing, do not contact Jay. Jay can only help you with public relations and media. You got to go to Drew for that stuff. We like to stay in our lane, try and stick to PR only. But yeah, no, I totally agree. But I will say I've worked with digital marketing agencies in the past. They are not all created equal. If you're listening to this and you've worked with digital marketing agencies, you may have had a bad experience. So it's really important to dig into the ones that you're choosing. Listen to them, make sure they're experts, make sure that you have access to them. Drew is somebody that I would recommend. So if you're listening to this and you're ready to take that next step and sign up for an agency, talk to Drew. Go and know him on Instagram and get in touch. Now, Drew, final question that I ask everybody that comes on the show. This is Mentors Collective. You're a mentor. I'm a mentor. Who has been a mentor for you? I'd love you to mention somebody that other people can find online and have access to. So somebody whose courses or books that you've consumed that have been influential for you. Who would that be?
I mean, I follow a lot of people on social media. I mean, I do really love Gary Vaynerchuk's social media stuff. I mean, he's very genuine and authentic, and a lot of that is very helpful to me in terms of he's very good at branding. He's very good at what he does. I mean, I would never say follow one person on social media and do everything that they do blindly, but take elements and really dissect what he says and what he does And again, he promotes himself being a genuine person and promotes himself and his agency as a genuine agency. And again, you could take some of that with a grain of salt, but at the same time, it's like obviously he's built a multi-trillion-dollar business by doing something right.
And he's entertaining to watch. So I like that
Uh,
answer. How about I don't know if you're a big reader, but any books or courses even that, or even YouTube creators that would be a good resource for people if they want to learn more about digital marketing?
trying to, so what I read in terms of publications is Search Engine Land. So Search Engine Land and Search Engine Journal are fantastic. And they're not just search anymore, they are social media too. And they provide great content every week and they do different articles. And I learn a lot about it, especially stuff when it's so brand new. So when something new is coming out, one of the two is always covering it. So that way you could stay ahead of the trend. You could start to test things when they're starting to talk about it and really get perspective from people in the field. They're not just ghostwriters, they're actual people in the field that are writing these articles.
Cool. Those are resources that I have not heard about yet, so I will go check those out. So thank you for sharing that with me. And guys, if you're listening to this and you're getting a ton of value from Drew, go check him out on Instagram, Digital Drew SEM or digitaldrewsem.com. Now, Drew, for people listening that want to get in touch with you, maybe just want to pick your brain about marketing or hire your agency, where's the best place to reach you?
Yep. So those are definitely the two best places, digitaldrewsem.com and my Instagram at digitaldrewsem. So you could see I produce content every day pretty much on Instagram. I do reels. On my website, you could learn about all my different services. You'll find my Calendly where you could book a meeting. And yeah.
Cool. And I will drop those in the description. So if you're listening to this on a podcast, just go ahead and click the show notes. If you're on YouTube, go ahead and find those links down there. Drew, it's been a blast chatting with you, catching up. I'm excited to talk to you a little bit down the road, let you know how my Twitter ads are doing,
Yeah.
and keep in touch. So thank you for sharing your time with me and with my audience here. I had a blast.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Jay.